what can you say about loans? They say that taking loans is harmful. They drain energy from the future. What is this all about? Well, it's really bad. What do you have to say about this?
There is nothing bad and nothing unequivocally good. For example, let's consider a few situations. A person lives in a rented apartment. He understands that he will be renting it for his entire life. He keeps renting and renting, renting and renting. On one hand, he has freedom. That is, he can choose not to rent something else, move altogether, or leave for the winter, somewhere like Abietam, and live by the sea for 20,000 rubles. Many people do this now. On one hand, freedom. On the other hand, he might want to establish a base somewhere. He will find a place that he really likes, that suits him perfectly. And he won't want to travel anymore. But he doesn't have the money to buy a place there. Yet this place suits him completely. He will still live there. This is his place of power. He can rent an apartment in this place, or he can buy an apartment there, for example, with a long-term mortgage. In the first case, he will live there happily. He knows clearly that he won't leave this place. It's already his, and he can live, well, sort of rent. But this apartment will never become his. It won't be passed on to his grandchildren or children. On the other hand, he can live here, but with a mortgage. And although this apartment is kind of on credit, he is also paying money for it, but it is already his apartment, which, for example, in 20 years will become fully his. And in this case, from the perspective of the higher self, there is actually nothing wrong with a mortgage. Because the person has chosen their place. They no longer need the freedom to move. The second option is that a person, for example, yes, they simply don't know any other life. They work from dusk till dawn at 10 jobs and just rent an apartment to have somewhere to live. That is, as they say, he is just making ends meet. And then he thinks, okay, I'll probably take a mortgage so that at least it will be mine. And so he moves out of the rented apartment, moves into the neighboring or the same apartment, but with a mortgage, and continues to live in it exactly the same way. He doesn't like his life. He doesn't like this place. He just doesn't know anything else. Naturally, in this regard, for him, it's complete slavery. If before he could still realize, understand, and even leave from here, at this stage, he can no longer do it because he has to pay for it, or declare bankruptcy, sell the apartment, or, for example, another option. No, I don't know, like, for instance, a person wants to become a famous blogger. He would really like to. Wanted to buy something there, but didn't have the money. And he can, for example, go and take a camera on installment to shoot his blog. Yes, earn money from it, pay off the camera, and then over time become like Vlad A4 with 80 million subscribers or however many he has now.
They say that it's like you're taking energy from the future, meaning when you repay a loan, you're not creating something new, but rather you're giving back. It's like you're standing still, not developing. That's supposedly why it's bad to take loans.
Well, again, look, I've taken loans many times in my life, and now I've stopped doing that. But when I took loans, I didn't really feel anything. Honestly, if I needed it, I knew I needed it. It was directly necessary at that moment, and it would be effective somehow. And for example, in the case of a blogger who bought a camera, on the contrary, by buying this camera, he will create content. Otherwise, he would have saved up for it for another 2 or 3 years. And maybe he would have lost interest during that time. And the content that could have been created during those 2-3 years, he didn't make it. So it turns out that, on the contrary, he didn't take the loan and didn't share with the world his creativity and development. Instead, he just saved for a year, and then in the end, he just gave up and spent the money, I don't know, on a trip to Turkey.
So it all depends on the goals and a clear vision of why you're doing it. Being reasonable is very important here, right? Yes, exactly. So if you take a loan and it's structured in a way that you're covering some of your own gaps, some of your needs, to be popular, to be some kind of... So things like that, which stem from pride, from ignorance, that's bad. If you do it specifically for some of your own goals and you understand why and for what purpose you're doing it, then it's okay.
Well, in principle, yes, if you analyze it, again, with the mind. But if to answer just as I feel, yes, then sometimes loans are harmonious and sometimes loans are not harmonious. That's all. And you can verify it with the higher self.
All right. I understand. Okay.
Let's move on to the next question.
Can a person grow qualitatively spiritually while being materially unfulfilled?
The question is extremely interesting. Just extremely, because look, what is a materially fulfilled person? It's a person who has a strong or evident charge on the lower centers. That is the first chakra, the second chakra, the third chakra. In other words, the most fundamental center. If by spirituality we mean the unfolding of the spirit, then the spirit is actually not very tied to materiality. In other words, the spirit can be unfolded. Any person can unfold the spirit. From the perspective of the spirit, money is not bad. I always constantly say this. Yes, money is just a part of God. Money is just a part of everything because God is everything. What is money? Money is simply an artificially created system of exchanging efforts. That is, for example, I charge money for a course. That's a fact. Monetary energy, it is very gentle, it is very harmonious, it is very loving. What emotion does any person feel when they receive money? What joy? Well, joy, I mean, it's cool, right? In the literal sense of the word, it is gentle, it is joyful, it is kind. There are, of course, certain layers that are not harmonious because money is still too tied to various processes. But the overall majority in the end, yes, and from all of humanity, those people who use money for evil are much fewer than just ordinary people who receive a salary for their work, whatever their job may be. Therefore, the energy of money is very benevolent, very gentle, and if a person denies the energy of money, these are blocks. I mean, these are really imposed blocks, and even, like in one of my texts, I described that the story about money being an evil, bad, terrible energy is primarily beneficial to those who have a lot of money to slightly deter the desire to move in that direction so that the person remains without money, so that they remain uneducated, without access, including to good healthcare, without access to good food. We again recall this Kodam story of the golden billion. Yes, it means there will be fewer people and those who remain will be easier to manipulate. That's all.
I agree with you. But on the other hand, yes, like wars over money, family quarrels over money, suicide because of money. Yes, money games are tempting. Earning money is very pleasant, but a lot of bad things also happen because of money.
Take Japan, for example. One of the leaders in suicides in the world, I've just been involved with Japan for many years. For them, for example, it's not because of money. It's because of anything but money.
Yes, but hold on. There are a lot of suicides in Japan, specifically because they overwork, get tired, and they have no life. They live a life without living, so to speak. And therefore, essentially because of money.
They don't feel negative about money. They don't say, ugh, money is bad, or I don't have money, so I'll die. That's it. They don't suffer. They don't directly invest energy of suffering into this egregore. But no matter how many times I've approached the topic of money, the number of positive emotions is still greater than the number of negative ones. No matter how many times we've reviewed it, there is, as I mentioned, a certain negative layer which exists in any egregore, and money is a very strong egregore, but not as serious as it could be.
The topic of demonizing the show business, both Russian and foreign, for the most part. Do you think it's really as crazy as these programs show us? That stars are just out of their minds and doing all sorts of wild things?
Look, it's all very simple. What is show business? It's the dominance of the ego, specifically the false ego, because yes, it's a star. So what is a star? It's someone who shines so brightly that everyone notices them. That means you have to hypertrophy your ego from the general flow of life, in the literal sense of the word. Therefore, the entire show business is just saturated with ego. If a soul enters show business already quite experienced, it won't succumb to this. But on the other hand, if a soul is quite experienced, it seems there's nothing for it to do in show business. Therefore, as we discovered in the course on the age of the spirit, the souls that actually enter show business are, in fact, adolescents, if we use such terms. Because of this, again, a common egregore is formed, which also starts to influence the show. The egregore of show business begins to exert influence. From this arises the effect of permissiveness, the effect of elitism, the effect of separation from the world. And by the way, an interesting observation. If someone is really irritated by show business, here we have the principle of like attracts like at work. If something really strongly hooks us, most likely there is something similar within us, just on the level of energy physics, not on the level of philosophical reasoning, but simply on the level of energy physics, on the level of psychology. If we categorically dislike something, if we look at show business and just spit at it, and we say, ugh, what a nightmare, most likely. The ego is involved in this too. People too.
So how do you understand then if I don't like show business, they behave strangely there, they're all so outrageous? Does it mean that a person also wants to be like that but doesn't allow themselves to?
It depends on what resonates with them. If they resonate with the outrageousness, then most likely you need to work with the experience of a psychotherapist, but most likely it's like they can do it like that, but I can't allow myself to. I don't express myself that way, so that's why I have this kind of situation.
Regarding any topic, yes. If something triggers you, then, well, look within yourself, right?
Yes. In psychotherapy, we have 6 conditional negative emotions: fear, resentment, guilt, loneliness, sadness, anger. There are 6 of them, yes. Fear, resentment, guilt, loneliness, sadness, anger. Everything that strongly triggers you, that is, a person is just bursting. It will be very difficult for them to reach a higher state, just incredibly so.
We couldn't discuss, the contracts. Is it really true that everything is on contracts with these dark entities and they control them in show business?
Well, again, since it's the ego, it's a place where everyone is focused on themselves to achieve the best results, to get ahead. They often don't shy away from anything. So in terms of dark contracts in show business, I'm more than sure, especially in Western show business, because there are real sharks, right?
Well, you can really see it there, There's this kind of arena on stage. She's almost being torn apart just there. Well, it's just a horror happening. She even said in an interview that I don't want to be like this. It's not me. I'm being controlled. So this really exists, probably.
Well, yes. Moreover, it's not even so much that many of them I can clearly see. It's not so much the egregore, not so much the contracts. They directly approach them, participate in some rituals, although there are those too. The egregore of show business is actually quite dark. It's dark, it's unpleasant. And especially if you are a highly sensitive person, and again, who comes to show business, creative people. And who are the creative ones? They are very empathetic. They get influenced very quickly. That's why in show business, there are constant divorces. It's like, yes, a feast without marriage hangs over the entire show business, I think. They have like 10 wives, 10 husbands. It's generally a common egregore mix. I don't think it's exactly all of them. There are those who, sell their soul to the devil and so on. Those exist too. But the majority just latch onto the common egregore, which isn't particularly clean. By the way, in terms of money, the egregore of money is much cleaner than that of show business. Although show business also has one, you know how it is. It's how to describe it. It's layered. There is a layer that is very, very, very pure. It's the layer of love that fans convey to their idols, the layer of fans, and below, the layer of the idol. So, the layer of the idol itself is very egocentric. And so we have this kind of layered cake, black at the bottom, white at the top. People who go there, it all depends on which layer they connect to the layer of the fan, this true kind of interaction. When you receive love and sincerely give love back without slipping into idolization. But if you slip into idolization, then that's it. It's just that is a snowball effect will start. Anything can happen. I have seen guys there, you can really feel them. In fact, they need to be pulled up to a higher level, as they say, many of them.
Well, this is the influence of the egregore. It's negative, it can control a person. That he might speak not with his own words, do things he doesn't want to, sing songs he doesn't want to. Impose certain meanings through songs? All of this is possible, and it doesn't have to be dark entities.
Not necessarily, but again, it could be dark entities working on egregores. That can also happen. So, as they say, everyone is right here. And those guys who talk about egregores and entities are right too. Here, you need to look at each specific performer to see what exactly is going on with them.
Let's still answer the pressing question. Have people been to space or not? Or is it all fake?
They have been to space, but not to the moon.
Not on the moon.
That's right, we haven't been to the moon.
Exactly.
Well, of course, they were in space. They've definitely been to space. But astronauts on the ISS are there continuously.
So they say it's all filmed in a studio?
Well, yes, flat Earth, right? No. My dad, he worked as an engineer all his life. No, he's not an astronaut, but close. He worked all his life as an engineer for aircraft engines, specifically those that orbit. That is, he developed engines for satellites and launch vehicles. And I personally met with, for example, I had a meeting with the son of a very famous astronaut. Again, I probably don't have the right to say with whom, but I was standing right next to him. And he was talking about Pata, what he did there, basically what he was doing there. There were no cameras there, of course. The Earth is round, absolutely certain. The Earth is not flat. There are astronauts. They fly. Space exists. Stars exist. It's not a projection. But the Americans were not on the moon. No matter how many times we reviewed it, they weren't there. Those very photographs that are presented as being from the moon, those very first ones where there's the lunar rover, the landing module, this one walking with their flag. This is definitely not the moon.
Listen, there are so many different theories about this. I've even heard a theory that they did land on the moon, and there they were met by the Galactic Federation of Light. The Cosmic Federation of Light, yes? I've heard that they talked with them there, and that's why they couldn't show people that they were on the moon. There was no evidence because it was forbidden to talk about any contact with the Federation.
The Federation of Light.
And they returned, and they were forced to just create this fake filmed in a studio to supposedly show they were on the moon. So they were actually there, but there is no evidence.
That might be possible, but again, it needs to be reviewed separately.
All right.
Will Elon succeed in colonizing Mars?
I think Elon won't succeed, but over time, Mars will be colonized.
When do you think they will start creating laws for a world with artificial intelligence?
Already, because, for example, they launched the Smart City project, and Volvo was doing the Smart City, and Tesla was doing the Smart City, because you release an autonomous car onto the city streets and it hits, for example, a pedestrian. Who is at fault? Is it the company? Or the engineer? Or the machine? Or what should be done? You can't put a car in prison. As they say, it doesn't care about that. Yes, it won't reform. I think in about 10 years or 15, and there will be a bunch of laws that somehow affect, somehow interact with artificial intelligence.
Do you think there will be a tax on neural networks?
In certain countries, in certain states, on specific neural networks with specific results from these neural networks. That's my prediction.
So if they gain significant benefits from neural networks, then there's a tax if...
Yes, if it's significant, or maybe even a fine for using neural networks if it causes significant harm.
All right. And with the popularization of artificial intelligence, people will start working 2-3 days a week. There's such an opinion. And they will start to degrade, become alcoholics. Maybe they will live in virtual reality glasses in their own little world.
Well, in virtual reality glasses, in their own little world, literally. I think we will all soon be living like that.
And what should they do? No work, machines are working. And what do you think? Will they be poor?
No. Because when machines do physical labor and partially mental work, you actually have a lot of free time to focus on yourself. Some people, of course, will degrade. Yes, but we must not forget that we live in a world of money. And here, look, you see, a lot of professions will become a thing of the past. Or the number of earning options will be greatly simplified and reduced. Therefore, I don't think that with the reduction in earning options where robots will do everything, you still need them, right? There will be certain means, resources for food, travel, leisure, and other things. Therefore, you'll have to learn new professions. And the competition in all this will be much greater. But the thing is, you're competing, let's say, I don't know, with some colleague who barely studied up to the 8th grade. And it's another thing to compete with a neural network that absorbs all human knowledge.
Yes. It's a good motivation for development.
Yes. So I would say it's not about just lying around. On the contrary, it's motivation to do something that neural networks can't do. Because today I've already seen examples where neural networks, for instance, have taken jobs from artists.
In the field of art, the value of human labor will likely increase.
Yes.
Because, yes.
It will increase because, look, right now there's a neural network that writes music, for example. In 5 years, it will be indistinguishable from contemporary musicians singing. And a large number of Western music producers have started investing in this neural network. I really think that over time there will be a lot of music already written by neural networks. There will be many films made by neural networks. By the way, until 2024, neural networks could hardly make videos, normal ones. I mean, they were all very wobbly. Today, YouTube is already filled with excellently made videos using neural networks. It only took them 6 months to figure out how to make videos. Another year, 2, 3, again, 10 years. What are 10 years in the scale of human civilization? I mean, yes, just 10 years. For us, well, 10 years ago, a drop in the ocean, of course. 10 years ago, the iPhone was released, I think the 4th or even the 5th already. I mean, it's right next to us.
So even when the internet appeared, how many years has it been? I don't know. Well, the internet appeared not so long ago, and what do we have now, right? Artificial intelligence at all.
Exactly. And some guys in the West, for example, Elon Musk, they tried to beat the gong and shout that, guys, we need to stop the development of artificial intelligence, but naturally no one listened to them because, again, as we talked about, once events are already happening here, it has already formed on the subtle plane. If it is already seeping through to here, stopping it on the physical level is extremely difficult. It is necessary to ensure that the event does not form on the subtle plane. That's when, yes.
Everything that a person generates themselves will exist. It will just cost some unreal amount of money. It will be very expensive, to the point where learning in a classroom with a teacher for children will be, like, for some elites, because bots will be teaching. And all this will happen in virtual classrooms.
They are already teaching. Bots are already teaching. There are already a bunch of programs for neural learning of the English language. By the way, they are quite good. So it's essentially like a personal tutor that trains you for just $10 a month and dedicated to your learning. Let's say live labor will be valued more and more, and competition, meaning you have to kind of deliver in person what the neural network delivers, which, has absorbed the experience of all the people alive in this field. Yes, and a little bit more.
Well, yes, but here it probably depends on what, right? Look, because, for example, painting an oil painting is something artificial intelligence is unlikely to be able to do.
It draws excellently. It paints with oil. It paints amazingly. I conducted a survey in my group. Some guys said that artificial intelligence in general is all bad. It's all terrible. I conducted it. I think I gave them 10 or 11 pictures and asked which of these were drawn by a neural network and which were drawn by a human. A huge number of people didn't guess correctly. And this, again, is just 3 years into the development of neural networks. How long has it been? 3 or 4 years, right?
You know, as I see it, the future, ours, where someone visits someone, and the host says, this painting was done by a human?
Gave it away.
Yeah, how much did you pay for it?
Why something like that? Possibly, again, this needs to be reviewed, but neural networks will be in our lives already. Firmly, for a long time, and seriously. But I don't see anything bad coming from them. That is, they will live and thrive, feel great, and help people. I don't see robots taking over. Neil, this whole story like Terminator, Sarah Connor was right, and so on. No, we won't have any of that.
The Simpsons have already predicted many events, but the most incredible is the equation that predicts the mass of the Higgs boson. Coincidence, or do they know something?
I don't have details, but I know about those behind the Simpsons.
Well, who is it? Are they
The Simpsons is, in fact, a project, absolutely clearly a project, an Illuminati Masonic project. It is supported by a bunch of these various clans that are connected with the Illuminati, with the Masons, and they indeed release some revelations through cartoons, through other means. Why they do it, that's a separate story, but honestly, I have a feeling that in many ways they simply enjoy a certain kind of game, because overall the Illuminati Masons are guys who, really love this kind of ritualism, a bit of slightly egotistical showmanship, just a little. The more well-known an American product that influences a large number of people, the higher the likelihood that a certain number of certain forces are behind it. Because the entire American culture, the Anglo-Saxon American culture, is imbued with the spirit. The spirit, course, of the Illuminati, Masons, and all these secret societies. In Russia, there are far fewer of them.
All right, Danila, thank you so much for your answers.
You're simply amazing.
You shared so much interesting information today. Thank you so much. Let's tell our viewers, in conclusion, what opportunities are available, what you can offer them. Well, I'm talking about your training. Who can attend your training? When will it start? What will it be? What will it look like? And so on.
Everything is very brief. The training is subsidized. Starting Falcon Beach in January. I organize 2 groups per year. This is the upcoming group. The queue usually starts around February for July. So I really open enrollment in February and it just keeps going. Many people wait for 4 or 5 months. We launch a group in July and another in January. 6 months. No, 3 lectures a week, partly recorded, partly online. So I call it audio learning.
Many people ask how much time per day is needed to study.
15 minutes.
I mean, for practice.
No kidding. 50 minutes for practice. 15, 20 minutes. Realized at some point that everyone works at jobs. Everyone has families. I myself have 2 children. Everyone wants something. Everyone wants to achieve certain results while living their life without having to become a monk.
Danila, thank you once again.
Viewers, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. To those who watched until the end, a special thanks to you as well.
Dear friends, I invite you all to my course with a personal vision, Return to the True Self. This course has been around for over 12 years. And recently we launched it in English with my complete personal vision in 6 modules, working with blocks, working with egregores, working with the ego, contacting the higher self. Answers to simple questions, answers to more complex questions, and then there's what we call the Great Journey. It's contact with space, contact with the planet, contact with God, contact with anything at your request through the higher self. Health, finances, relationships, purpose, past life. The course is available at any time. You can sign up for it using the link below this video. Come on over, I'll be waiting for you.